For some, the dispute over Brexit seemed over, but the British government no longer wants to accept the so-called Northern Ireland Protocol. Now, what could that mean? So, you heard it before, but I want to talk about this again. This video is so important. Almost 6 years after the British voted to leave the EU, the dispute over the status of Northern Ireland continues. Now London is once again threatening to unilaterally withdraw from the agreements that have been reached with great difficulty that time. And the most important question and answers are, for example, why does Northern Ireland need special Brexit status? Well, Northern Ireland, which is still part of the United Kingdom, shares a border of around 500 kilometers with the EU member Ireland. Since Brexit, an external border of the European Union has been running there. All sides there want to avoid product checks at all costs, because otherwise the violent conflict between the supporters and opponents of an Irish reunification are expected to flare up again. The question of how, despite an open border on the island of Ireland, the European single market can be protected from the imports of products that do not meet EU standards or that have been subject to tariffs became the toughest nut of the Brexit talks that time. But what is the Northern Ireland Protocol? The Northern Ireland Protocol is part of the Brexit deal and stipulates that the region in the north will continue to follow the rules of the EU internal market and the European Customs Union. This can prevent checks at the inner Irish border. Instead, however, checks must now be carried out when products are brought into Northern Ireland from either Scotland, England or Wales. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson signed the agreement at the end of 2019 and celebrated it that time as a major breakthrough after his predecessor Theresa May failed several times with her backstop plan in Parliament in London. The backstop had provided for the entire United Kingdom to remain in the internal market and the customs union until further notice. With his oven-ready deal, as he called it, Johnson contested the election campaign that same year and he won a large majority, as we all know. But what is wrong now for the British government with that plan? Johnson made it clear shortly after the Brexit deal that he didn't want to stick to the deal. He repeatedly denied that controls between Great Britain and Northern Ireland were even planned, so he's a liar, as we all know it. Northern Ireland politicians also reported that Johnson had pledged to break the deal. Since then, London has repeatedly complained that Brussels is interpreting the agreement too strictly. No, they just interpret what is on the paper. In autumn 2020, the British government announced for the first time that it would undermine the protocol through internal legislation, unilaterally, of course. However, this was later withdrawn after strong protests from Brussels, Dublin, and most important, Washington. However, London suspended some parts of the deal and is not forwarding some data on trade flows to EU authorities as promised, and they delayed a lot of the transition periods. But what solutions has the EU put forward? More than 6 months ago, the EU Commission had already proposed easing the checks on goods in line with the protection of the internal market. The checks of quality standards for food and other goods should be reduced just as significantly as customs formalities within the framework of the protocol. But the proposals did not go far enough for London. So far, London has not been able to appease an agreement on further exceptions for the transport of medicines. But how could the EU react to the breach of the Northern Ireland Protocol now? In theory, the EU has several options. On the one hand, there is speculation in EU circles as to whether the European Commission will breathe new life into infringement lawsuits against London, and that now happened. And in the end, they can end up before the ECJ and theoretically result in a fine. There's one revived infringement procedure and 2 new ones. There's also the possibility that the EU could withdraw parts of the Brexit trade agreement in response, which is likely to mean that trade privileges for Great Britain will disappear. Such a measure could also escalate into a trade war between the actual allies. But the most important question for me is, how is this protocol rated in Northern Ireland? The majority of MPs in the newly elected Northern Ireland Regional Parliament support the protocol. In an open letter, 52 of the 90 MPs recently expressed their frustration at the recent escalation by the British government. However, support is limited to parties that either favour union with Ireland, so reunification, or are neutral on the issue. Unionist parties who want to prevent Northern Ireland's detachment from the United Kingdom see the protocol as a threat to its connection to Great Britain. And in protest, the largest unionist party, the DUP, don't understand politics, is currently blocking the formation of a unity government with the Republican Sinn Féin. But that they have to work together was envisaged in the 1998 peace agreement known as the Good Friday Agreement. And so they are holding hostage the whole of Northern Ireland for their own political goals. So Johnson and Donaldson are holding a whole nation hostage. Well, it's not the whole nation, but kind of Ireland is involved in that, so you might say that, but it's hard to express. And unfortunately, this will go on for some time, and so I will have to give you some details on this matter when it's going on over and over again, I'm sure. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.